Hey everyone!
Hi.
So we are back again with another episode, and this goes over self-love.
Yes.
And Algernon and I are just going to quickly go over what we want to discuss in regards to this topic. If anyone wants to watch more about self-love, feel free to keep on watching and feel free to like, comment, and stuff for more as per usual. But we appreciate your time always. Okay, so how do we want to start off, Algie? Do you want to go ahead and start off with a question or something so we can get this started?
We could start off with a little introduction. So basically today we're going to talk about self-love and
Yes.
what does it mean to us.
Mm-hmm.
I know self-love is pretty broad statement.
It is,
but
yeah.
it also has so many different ways. You know what I'm saying? So you have to start putting yourself first. So which means we all have busy schedules and we've all been through a whole lot of stuff in our lives, correct?
Yeah.
So sometimes we forget about ourselves. We got work. Some of us got kids. Some of us, have so many family issues. And we tend to always forget about ourselves because we're so worried about the other person that needs us.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we need ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So we always have that thing of, oh, okay, I can worry about it later. Oh, I could sleep whenever I want to. Or I could just treat myself whenever I want to. But we never really truly do because we get so busy within our lives.
Yeah.
So when that is happening, sometimes when we forget about ourselves, we become angry.
Mm-hmm.
We become frustrated. And we don't feel appreciated within ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes other people don't see how hard we be working either. So that's another factor. Or other people that we associate with, our coworkers or friends or associates, and if that person is not seeing how hard you're working or whatever, we'll feel like, well, how come everybody else don't see how hard we're working? But then you have to realize you know who you are and you know how hard you are working. If you're working hard every single day, that's all that matters because you know your body. You know who you are personally.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You can't always keep worrying about everybody else and what they think. So you always have to put yourself first. You have to put God first. You have to figure out what you want to do to have a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Because there ain't nothing free.
Yeah.
So you have to know exactly what you want to do in your life and then figure it out. Just take off, just soar.
Yes. So in regards to our definition of self-love, I bet everyone out there has their own definition of that. And I think it is pretty self-explanatory in terms of what self-love is. It's just how you define it. And we all have our own unique ways to define self-love. And I think a big one is besides the obvious loving yourself, but loving yourself in all aspects. So that goes beyond just physical, you know what I mean? Emotionally, mentally, sometimes spiritually as well. And it's just all around. So all around self-love. You don't neglect each aspect of yourself. And I think that's how we can fulfill that when we are loving ourselves in all aspects and on our good days and bad days as well. Yeah, because it is tough, when life gets to you, and you know how life is full of ups and downs, a whole roller coaster, of course, and sometimes we totally forget to just kind of go back to that, self-love, because it's there's just so much things happening, and there's so many priorities that are set in our lives. And there's so many things that we have to do every single day that sometimes it's easy to just neglect yourself. But then again, we have to always try to get back to that. It's it's for our own health and well-being to do something like that for ourselves. And it's always important to realize that you always should come first. And if you feel like you're stressing too much about other things and then it's putting a toll onto you, there's just a point where that could actually hurt you a lot more when you don't take that time to just kind of like go back and, reflect and like just kind of zen to yourself, you know what I mean? Like to just have that moment to yourself. Because so many things happen in life.
Right.
Yeah. So, Algie, I wanted to ask you, what is your definition of self-love? Because I think you might have a different way of thinking of it.
What self-love means to me, my definition of it is when you start putting yourself first and appreciating what you have accomplished in your life.
Yeah.
I think really what it is, I think what our problem is, especially like with this new generation, I've noticed with myself that this new generation sometimes does not understand how hard work is.
Yes.
And when that happens, some people feel like, oh, well, you work hard, but it's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to also start realizing it's a job to put yourself in a good position. It's
really
the job
is.
yourself every day, and you have to tell yourself that's going to be okay.
Yeah.
All that is a job within your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you're constantly putting others before you, or putting work or school before you, and you really truly forget who you are, and sometimes you have to look at how hard you're working in school.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was in college, right? There will be times where I work super duper hard, and sometimes I'll forget who I am.
Yeah, me too.
I would literally forget who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would not smile. I mean, I would smile, but it would not be the most happiest smile.
Like, inside, you feel totally opposite of how you look on the outside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't even make me, like, feel good. I'd be like, why am I always upset? Why am I lashing out this way? Why am I always upset? Because I'm forgetting who I am.
Yeah. It's almost too easy to just forget about who you are, how you handle things, because you're like, I need to just handle this right now, but despite that, you're actually kind of like hurting yourself in the process, and it's almost like you forget that you're doing that. You know what I mean?
And it's constant. When you're constantly seeing that pattern,
yeah,
you're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not happy, you coming to lash out differently when it comes to others.
Yeah.
You want to be happy like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to fight within yourself.
Yeah.
To get to that place where you used to be every single day until you feel like you are satisfied with something.
Yeah.
Like if you're satisfied with a certain grade. Like if you feel like, okay, as long as I just pass the class, I don't care what grade it is. As long as I pass, I'm okay with it.
Right.
As in some people in college or high school or middle school, whoever else is out there, will feel like we have to have straight A's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, certain cultures feel like you have to have straight A's consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's nice to have straight A's. But do you realize how much pressure that takes?
Yes.
Do you realize how much time and effort that is? Do you realize that sometimes I have other activities?
Mm-hmm.
Do you realize how much I need sleep to get up to those straight A's? Because that's not easy. Or to get up and go to work and try to work your hard to a higher position. For example, I work at Amazon. I'm sure anybody else that does not know, I work at Amazon, right? It's a very, very, very big job. However, I love my job. And there are times where it can be, a little stressful or whatever. But I know how hard I work. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I know that I did my job, now I get to go home.
Yeah.
Now, as for some people who work in corporate or anything like that, or any other jobs that they work at, you have a lot of pressure because there are some people who want you to be perfect on every single thing.
Yeah.
And when you feel all that pressure, you start to get angry with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
As in, why is this not happening for me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's frustration to it.
Yeah.
There's definite frustration. And then we get super stressed and overwhelmed because we want to meet an expectation, or we want to meet or go above the criteria. So that way we get, like, that satisfaction from others, right? But then how do you feel in that process? It's almost like it's pretty rough.
It is.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It really is.
And when you feel that pressure and feeling how rough that is, your emotions are all over the place.
Yeah.
Especially like when you're real stressed out when it comes to school and work, or dealing with your family, dealing with whatever personal situation it is. You feel like you're stuck. It feels like your body's getting stretched out by so many different ways.
Yeah.
And you're trying to keep yourself together.
Mm-hmm.
But you worry about everybody else's emotions and everything like that. When it comes to your emotions, it's like you're just almost dead, basically. Because you're just not happy, you're not satisfied with yourself.
Oh, you know what I also want to add?
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm interrupting, but it's just something that literally came to mind. But when people say, like, some people like to be people pleasers because we get caught up with, like, trying to impress others all the time. That's kind of how we are, because we're afraid of judgment. I feel like, let's admit that we all fear that, you know what I mean? Because the last thing you want to hear is like, oh, wow, I mean, this person could do a better job, or like they're terrible at doing what they do. And we always seek for, there's a word for that. We always try to seek for something, their approval. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We want to feel like we're relevant. We want to feel like we're doing an adequate job every single time. And even if it means, like, you're going above and beyond what you can handle, it's like we always constantly search for that. Like, we just want to please others because we just don't want to be told a certain way. You know what I mean? Like we don't want to be made fun of. We don't want to be judged for how we do things. And, like, we're just constantly trying to please others. And that's the thing, like, that's a dangerous thing when you're trying to be like a people pleaser all the time. Because you're actually neglecting more of who you are as a person, and you're not really kind of going with what works for you. Rather, like, you're going for something that would probably work better for others and not yourself. You know what I mean? So it's just like you're not going at your own pace. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because when it comes to, like, a people pleaser, like, we see that a lot, like, in college.
That's hard.
We see that a lot in our everyday lives. And I think sometimes when it comes to a people pleaser, or especially when we receive a people pleaser, it's like they're trying to fit in. You know what I'm saying? And when you're trying to, like, fit in or whatever, it's like at the end of the day, you just have to be yourself. If it's not for you, if you don't want to hang around certain people, you don't have to.
Or do things that you don't want to.
Yes, there you go. There you go.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's consistently. And it's sad because sometimes, like, we'll see people that are older than us doing childish things, and it's just like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, how is somebody supposed to look up to you and you're acting like a whole 19-year-old? You know what I'm saying? And leadership is a huge thing. Being a leader, not a follower. Being a leader means, like, you're showing people what it is. This is how you do stuff. This is how you do stuff a certain way. This is how you want to be better in your life.
Yeah.
Now, when you be around all these people pleasers, you gotta think about it for a second. Sometimes they ain't got their life together. So when they ain't got their life together, you have to start paying attention to their body language and their own language and how they treat other people.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah,
Because a lot of the red flags show up once you see how they treat other people and how they talk. Sometimes it's
yeah,
their language and the way they, how they refer to other people. Like, let's say people have done them wrong, and like, how would they refer to them? Can you imagine if they did the same to you behind your back?
right.
Yeah. So this is
Right.
why, oh my gosh, this is why it's like the whole thing, like, you can't exactly trust people. Like, you just really can't. It's really hard to.
Because it's so many factors why you cannot trust people.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad when people start becoming jealous of you for anything. And it's like, let's just be real and let's just be completely honest, shall we? Now, we see all these celebrities all over social media, right? Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and whatever else is out there, right? We see all these people, doing great things in our lives, right? But then I've noticed for me, when I was in college, I would see people who would act like a celebrity and they're not. Ooh. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty evident.
And you see those traits, like trying to be famous, trying to do, break your neck to sell your soul and do all this kind of crazy stuff, and it's not even worth it. And that jealousy stuff is real because you gotta understand that mental health is serious.
Yeah.
Because when somebody's constantly being jealous of you, you're not realizing, like, if you're supposed to be a friend to me, a family member to me, a church member to me, or associate to me, if you don't like what I have, well, deal with it. You gotta start thinking about other people's feelings, because sometimes it's not their fault. We all have stuff. If you really truly want something, save your money up for it. Because of bashing people, talking bad about others, and doing all this crazy stuff on Instagram, that does not help nothing in life. It's not helping that other person, because now you're hurting that other person's feelings. Now you're focusing and hurting their self-worth. You're hurting their self-values. They feel like, oh my gosh, like, this is how it feels. Let's just end it all. Because this is very, very serious.
Yeah.
And mental health is so serious nowadays.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
And it's so sad. And it's to the point where nobody talks about their problems. And the reason why a lot of people don't want to talk about their problems because there is no trust with the other people that they're around with. There's no real love.
Really nothing. Yeah.
Real love. People talking about, oh, I love you, girl. Oh, I love you, boy.
But people throw that word around like it's nothing.
Right.
That's the problem. People overuse that word, and then they're kind of like just saying it just to say it, like as if love has replaced the word just like as a person. Like, it's weird. And I mean, yeah. No, I'm just saying, but like they just throw it around like it's just a casual word, but love means a lot more than that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's been something I see all the time, especially on social media and just like everywhere you go. Like people just like throwing that word around, and it's like, do you really go? I don't know.
Because you have to really truly figure out and see if that person, if they are really truly honest on what they're actually saying.
Yeah.
Because if you're not honest about what you're saying, it doesn't mean anything.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. No, that's why we have to go back to the whole like self-love thing, because like if you feel like you're constantly trying to seek for that, it's like there's that time where it's like you gotta just like focus more on yourself and have that love for yourself prior to like giving it to others or prior to accepting that from others, because some people either genuinely love you or they're just saying that. And I know it's super sad hearing that, but that's the reality.
It is. It is. And that's when you have to know that what you have to do is best for you. Because all that stuff that I was just saying a few seconds ago, that all deals with self-love. That all deals
really
with
does.
so many different things, because self-love is just, just a broad statement, so it involves everything.
Yeah.
And lately, you have to really truly figure out, like, am I okay personally?
Yeah.
If you're not okay, it's okay to not be okay.
That's true. Not everyone's gonna be happy 24/7. You know what I mean? Like, we're humans, so like, we have emotions, and it can be changed every single time. Like, you just never know.
Right. So, how does self-love really truly mean to you in different ways? Like, how does it affect you?
Ooh, I think a big one has to do with like how I take care of myself, because it's like there's days where you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just exhausted. Like, I'm just constantly out and about. Like, I always forget that I have to kind of like have that moment to myself. And it's really a big one with self love, is like taking time to care for yourself. I think that's a big one, because that can really affect how you feel in all aspects, like I mentioned before. Because once, one part is a little bit messed up, you have to try to like not have those other aspects messed up as well. So like, let's say physically you haven't been taking care of yourself, everything else follows. Everything else follows. It's not just like this part is affected. No, it's a whole domino effect, especially if you do not stop it sooner, or you don't take the time to just realize like, look, I need to really take a break sometimes. You know what I mean? And just like, just focus on yourself a little bit more, and then take breaks when you have to. You like have to genuinely listen to yourself. If something doesn't feel right, that's just a time like you gotta like reflect on what you can do to kind of improve that, and to like prevent yourself from kind of falling off and making yourself feel like you're neglecting yourself. You know what I mean? You gotta make sure you take care of that first. Once you feel like something's off, like let's say you have a lack of sleep, like if there's a way to fix that before it like starts affecting all parts of your life and yourself in general, then that's good, because you're stopping it at its tracks and you're trying to improve it along the way, and it won't affect you long term. Yes. So that's big. And how does self-love exactly like affect you?
It affects me in different ways.
Yeah, because it really does affect you, man.
I would say sometimes I will forget about myself sometimes.
Yeah.
I won't realize it.
Oh yeah.
As in, like, if I don't get like enough sleep, or
that's
if
a big
I
one.
don't have like a good walk, like take like a good comfortable walk outside. If I don't do any of those things to like make my favorite like protein smoothies, just little stuff that I like to do for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I don't do that, I won't feel right.
Yeah, I get that.
And when you don't really do little stuff for yourself, you feel like you're alone. And that's like another question I want to ask you. Did you ever feel alone? How did you?
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. Because I was trying to. Because here's the thing: as someone who's really introverted, it's like I am used to being alone, but there's points in my life where I feel like, wow, like do I have to seek some happiness somewhere else, or like with somebody? And it wasn't until like I obviously I pray about it, and I'm like hoping like I wish this feeling of just being alone would just go away, because I hate that feeling. You know what I mean? No one really likes to feel alone. But there's those days where, of course, you're going to feel like you're kind of just like alone, especially if you don't relate to certain people. That's a big one too. If you feel like, you have a couple acquaintances or friends that you're not exactly like, you don't relate in all aspects, you have that time where you kind of feel like you're alone because you can't exactly relate to them. Let's say you don't always hang out. Like, that's a big one too. Like, I don't even go out like all the time. I'm just going to be honest. So there's going to be times where I feel alone. But that just makes sense why it's a time to really take care of yourself. Like, you got to work out when you have to. Make sure you eat at least pretty balanced so you don't feel bad. You know what I mean? And you just take that time to really take care of yourself. And that's where we kind of discussed this in a previous video about just like, wasn't it something about self-care or something like that, because that's
Yeah.
a big thing. And that is all part of self-love as well. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, there are definite times as an introverted person that I do feel alone, but that's actually the best time to really focus in on who you are and take care of yourself, and that self-love definitely will come in after.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's so important because so many times where you feel alone, you feel like you're trying to get out and you don't know how to escape.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when that happens is because when you don't feel comfortable having a conversation with somebody about something that is serious to you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do not care. And some people
that's
feel
the thing.
it as, oh, here we go again, as like it's a negative. But if I'm supposed to be your friend, your real friend, you should start taking consideration that there is something wrong.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There are some people who just don't care about other people. Like, it's so rude, Like, some that have, like, that selfish type of behavior.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
And it's like,
Facts.
now that I'm venting to you and I'm genuinely telling you how I feel, like, I don't feel okay. And now you want it to turn around and just, like, make it all about you. I cannot stand that, first of all.
Me too.
Because it's like, I take the time to really talk to you about things that you're going through and blah, blah, blah. Of course, it depends on what you want to share and all that. But of course, I'm going to provide some comfort and just be there for you, provide some sympathy or empathy or something. Because I'm a human being and I genuinely care about people too. Like, I have that compassionate side of me. But there's people who just don't have that. And that's a problem.
You want to know what the reason why is about that? Because a lot of people love to whine. People love to whine about things that are so irrelevant that they have their own problems. So, like, when you are having a real conversation, right, with somebody, right, that's supposed to be your friend,
Yeah.
right? Use these air quotes, friend, right?
Yeah.
When that other person wants to keep whining about the same old thing or whine about things that they know that they cannot afford or do or make so many excuses why they can't do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But when they see you, they're going to feel like, well, what are you complaining about? For what? Look at all the stuff you got.
It's
you
so
why I have
crazy how that works.
And they're not always going to say it, but that's in their mind.
Yeah, and that's super selfish. And it's ironic too, because it's like, okay, so I think it's okay to vent. Like, if you want to vent to me, I'll be willing to listen and to hear you out. But to just like not want the other person to vent back is kind of messed up. Like, because you already vented to me, so like I expect the same thing. Like, treat others the way you want to be treated, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
There you go.
But anyways, going back to self-love, like, self-love is whatever you choose to define it, but ultimately it all comes down to who you are and how you see yourself, and just going back to just taking care of yourself and all aspects, and just remember that you are a very important person and you deserve all the self-love in the world. And that's a really big thing. It really is, because sometimes we feel like we have to depend on others to be happy.
Yeah.
But like, every time you try to seek happiness elsewhere, it's like you never feel that happiness long term. Because it all comes from within, obviously. It all comes from within. And it is really hard. Of course, you want to find a person or like just have someone to share it with and just feel like you need to depend on others to give you that happiness. But ultimately, it all comes down to what makes you happy.
Right.
Yes. What will make you happier in the long term? That's the biggest thing you gotta keep in mind, for sure.
Right.
Yes.
And taking care of yourself and knowing really truly, the real from the fake. That's what you always
I know for sure.
anytime you're having a very serious conversation with somebody that you know that you do not know, you gotta start watching their body language. You gotta start watching their actions.
Actions definitely speak louder than words.
Yes, there you go. See, she's preaching today.
Oh gosh, Algie, you usually do. Like, you usually own that.
Right. That's true.
But I know, but this is why we like to bring up topics like this because, okay, guys, this is like the end of the video technically, but we like to wrap it up with something like why we choose to talk about these certain topics. Because first of all, I think nowadays it's super needed because some people are starting to lose hope. I think since COVID, people have been kind of like mentally just not at their best. Let's be honest.
Right.
And some of them are just a little bit more frustrated or upset because I understand if things, are a little bit complicated, however you deal with COVID and all that stuff. But people happen to go through things during that time. And throughout the process, even through now, like some people still like are having a hard time, but we love to bring up topics that will kind of bring that positivity back into your life. And something that you can really take into consideration of what truly matters in this world. What truly matters. More than materialistic things, more than money, more than anything. It all comes down to who you are as a person, how you treat yourself, how to make yourself happier, love yourself more, and to have that overall confidence that you need in your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're in a safe place when you're watching our show. You're in a very safe place.
Yeah, and we like to come up with topics that might be a little more serious, but then again, it's like stuff that people really genuinely need to like just kind of go back to and just realize this is what truly matters, because it all comes down to like how you feel as a person. Because then you can't really learn anything from things that you see nowadays. I mean, like, we admit we like to look at memes and we like to look at random videos and laugh and all that stuff, but like we like to have, life lessons kind of in a way in a talk show and just go over topics that not like you just don't really see it that often. But it's something that needs to be brought up because it's that important, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And also the big reason why is because, like you were saying before, ever since when COVID hit, or even when before COVID
I think even before, yeah.
But even before when COVID hit, a lot of people did not know what to talk about.
Yeah, that's the
thing.
thing.
A lot of people did not know who to go to when they are going through such a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so hard to trust people nowadays. We just got to be honest with this real quick. Because when you lose that trust in somebody, you don't know how you're going to trust the next person.
Oh, yeah, you really don't. It's not easy.
And you have all your walls built up consistently. And it's because when you are hurt and somebody who's closest to you that is hurting you, or somebody that is close to you hurts you,
it's like,
whether it's a friend or family or whoever, you just feel like, why is my business being out here? It's supposed to be confidential. And
that's the thing too, like when you do end up, you confide in somebody and then they happen to not be trustworthy because they decide to like share it with someone else who could be a mutual friend or whatever. That's the worst. And that's where it becomes a little bit harder to trust, like you mentioned. But that is why, like, it all comes down to, like, you gotta just trust yourself. I think a big one is really just trust yourself. Because you can't always trust others anyway, so you gotta just, like, trust yourself.
Yeah. Put yourself first.
You really do.
Who you're talking to.
You really do. I think that's the best way to not put yourself in a very, like, harmful situation.
Right.
Because if anything, like, if something goes wrong, you could just blame yourself, but you're not going to be like in a situation where you're like, you have to kind of blame others for how you feel. Like, that's just another headache. So I'd rather like it be on me. Right. It's a big thing. Right. So that's what's important. It's like, if you can just do it yourself and like, of course, with a little bit of guidance, but ultimately it's up to you. And you're the only one who truly knows what make you happy. And a lot of times it's like your gut feeling really tells you everything. It's crazy feeling really does. Like, you just gotta trust yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. So some key takeaways here is like you just gotta go back and reflect and just realize that you are the most important in your own life. And always never forget who you are as a person, and never forget that you are loved in all ways. And just don't forget to give yourself that love as well.
Never forget who you are.
Yes.
Always.
Don't lose yourself. No.
Keep doing great things in your life.
Yes.
Stay
absolutely.
positive. Stay encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
Keep on living your life for you. Don't worry about nobody else. Make sure that you are okay and have fun in your life.
Yes.
And don't ever let anybody steal your joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then again, it's like you're the only one who can make yourself like truly and genuinely happy.
Yes.
And it's nice, of course, if you share it with someone who makes you happy, but that happiness always comes first, but that it comes from within first before others can give you, that. It's just more of a bonus if someone else can make you happy, but of course you always have to remember to, be happy for yourself first.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to leave it on that note, and please be free to like, comment, sub for more, and stay tuned for future videos on the TheNonah&AlgeTalkshow. If you guys want to send any questions at all, feel free to, just let us know. Depends if you have a question, if you have a concern, if you have a comment to make. It doesn't matter how you want to say it, but just feel free to message us. We'll definitely keep you guys posted on our social medias. I know Algernon for sure always keeps you guys updated in terms of when we're going to post again, so look forward to that. But in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great night when you see this, a great day if you see this in the morning. But anyways, thanks for watching.
Yes, thank you guys. Stay safe, everybody.
Bye. Self-love. Self-love. Always.
Always.
Mm-hmm. Never forget.